Hello, folks. Welcome to the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. It's episode 113. Today's very special guest is Blake Bickel. Blake is the guitarist and singer for the band Bronson Arm. Blake is joining me today to discuss an album that he considers influential to him, important to him in some sense, in the development of his musical tastes and career. The album he chose was Melvins Houdini. The Melvins' fifth studio album and their major label debut. Released in 1993. It's a great album. I'm sure there's tons of people that really love it, and I'm sure there's tons of people that also consider it incredibly influential. I think it's a great album. I've taken a lot of pleasure in getting to know it deeply, more deeply than I've known it in the past. I have considered myself a mediocre Melvins fan. I like some of their albums. I don't like everything they've made. I haven't really listened to everything they've made because there's a shit ton. But Bronson Arm is a great band, a great new band. They have, if you check their discography out, they have a few singles out, and then this new self-titled full-length album on Learning Curve Records, which is available for vinyl purchases, and the splattered color vinyl looks awesome. I do actually have to pick that up myself, and they will be doing some shows. I know that they are listed as one of the acts for Caterwaul Festival this year, which is very cool. And other than that, I mean, they'll probably be making a round somewhere around the Midwest, possibly out east. We don't know for sure yet, but the dates will be coming up soon, I'm sure. And if you'd like to follow them, I'll provide links in the show notes to pick up that vinyl and to follow them on social media so you can find out updates. All that we ask that you do here at Vinyl and Vision is please like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all those things you do with the internet. They all help out immensely, and they cost you nothing. If you do care to help us out in a more financial way, you can always visit our website, psychicstatic.net. Any purchase you make there goes towards funding this show. There's plenty of records out there and other releases that we've put out, that Psychic Static has put out, and including a new Narnia album, which is in the works. It's almost ready to be posted, so please follow us on social medias, Bandcamp, and stuff like that, and you'll get the latest information on that release that is soon to be available. Thank you very much, folks. Enjoy. Hi, Blake Bickel. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Doing okay. I said that right? Was that the correct pronunciation?
You nailed it.
Okay, good, good. Um, so what's going on with you, huh?
Oh, not much. Getting over a gnarly cold.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So voice is extra deep today and all
Hmm.
week.
Okay. Well, it sounds
But I'm
good to me.
doing good.
Where are you right now?
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay. But
Where are you?
what room are you in? Because I just
Oh,
see this beautiful backdrop to you.
this is my mastering studio. I do audio mastering.
Oh, okay.
And I
Great.
find it's the quietest, most peaceful room in the house. So
Oh, okay. And it's in your house?
yeah.
That's nice. So, can I just start by saying that I really love your record, the new one?
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, it
Thank
sounds
you.
great. I kind of knew right away as soon as I heard the first single off of it that I was going to like the album when I could hear the whole thing, and then I finally heard the whole thing, and I was just like, I'm right. Yeah, it's good.
Wonderful. I like to hear that. Thank you very much.
No, no problem. And you guys are like loud as fuck, right? When you play live?
Yes. Yeah, we're pretty loud. I mean, I like to think that it's more about pushing air and like feeling the sound versus like sheer decibel.
Hmm.
Um, and we definitely get a lot of comments from people saying that we're loud and heavy, but not that distorted. Um, and
Hmm.
I think pretty I think we're pretty distorted, but I do hear a lot of feedback from people saying that we're surprisingly clean and articulate, at least with the guitar tones and whatnot. But for
Hmm.
me, I just it's important to really to feel the sound, so it ends up
Sure.
being kind of loud.
Yeah, yeah, and that's interesting. I mean, like typically whenever something gets incredibly loud, it tends to distort no matter what.
Yeah,
So it's interesting that your band can retain its kind of clarity even through like, loud volume.
yeah. I just go with really big amplifiers and really big cabinets, but I'm not pushing the amplifiers to their, you know, maximum capacity.
Hmm.
They're usually around 50% of kind of what they could do.
Hmm.
Um, I think being a audio mastering engineer, I'm really particular about gain staging and dynamics and articulation. So yes, we have fun with that and experiment a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. Yeah. So now I invited you on here tonight to speak about an album that was important to you. And I kind of want to ask you, like, I want to make a huge assumption. I'm assuming we're around the same age. Uh,
How old?
I'm 43.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm 40. I think I'm 45 this year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, because I was wondering if we are around that same kind of age, I mean, give or take a year or two, based on the album of choice, the album you chose, Melvin's Houdini. Um, it kind of seems like a Melvin's novice choice. Like, was that your introduction point?
Exactly. Yeah, that was the first record that introduced me into the Melvins, and I've been a fan and listened to all their stuff, but that one, whether it's a nostalgia thing or a sentimental thing, that one has just always hung around, always been on, rotation, and something I draw upon for almost every band I've been in to some degree, depending
Hmm.
on what it is. Um,
Yeah. When did you get turned on to it?
I think when I was doing the math this morning, when I think I would have been 15. I heard a Melvin song on a snowboard video because I grew up in the country in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and uh, there was not a lot of alternative music going around, and the music stores and record stores definitely did not carry that type of music. So
Hmm.
kind of all the music that I was learning about that was different from what was on the radio was coming from skateboard and snowboard videos.
Hmm. Yeah, that seems
So
very typical for a lot of punkers.
yeah,
Yeah, but so 93 is when the album came out, and I guess so it was probably around that same time.
yeah, probably would have been fall of '93 if I had to guess.
Okay. And so how are you about the Melvins now? Like are you a consummate fan or is that kind of the one thing you like?
Oh, I love everything they've put out. There's certain things I am drawn more towards less than others, but I can enjoy everything they've done. And I think just being a fan and amazed by their how prolific they've been and
Hmm.
have been able to just keep doing it, keep being creative, and reinvent themselves. And so in general, that's very inspiring. I think it's common for a lot of musicians who've been playing heavy music for a long time at a certain point to tone it down a bit, and they absolutely have not done that. And I think that's refreshing. It's
Yeah.
it just speaks to that's what they have inside them. That's what gets them excited, and it still gets them excited. And you know, it's it's just a blast. I love seeing them live.
Okay. Oh, so you've seen them live a number of times, I imagine?
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where I don't necessarily catch them every time I've had the opportunity, just because maybe I've seen them maybe 6 or 7 times, and the last few times I saw them were so unbelievably good, such a great experience. It's like I don't want to like leave that
Hmm.
kind of want to leave that at the peak, and but
Right.
I'm still gonna go see them. I'm just
Yeah, you kind of have
seeing
to,
them.
right? I mean, that's the problem with that band, like being so prolific and always kind of just continuing doing what they do and at a breakneck pace as well, constantly putting out
Yeah,
records, constantly on tour. It's like their audience, I almost feel like their audience might get fatigued at some point.
it could, but I'm definitely due up to catch them again. It's been a few years, and yeah, like I said, they just don't stop. They keep putting out music that's interesting, and it's like there's common threads to like what they're doing now to what they did, say, on Houdini, but it's evolved, it's changed, and it's really fun to find those parallels and the differences. And yeah, I mean they're great.
Yeah. Okay. So now you were saying how you were growing up in Idaho.
Yeah,
Where?
that's where from the age like maybe 9 to 16, I was in Idaho Falls, Idaho, and that was at the time for me was a culture shock for sure. But that's where I learned and got into a lot of different music um,
Yeah.
that I still listen to today.
Okay. So 9 to
Yeah,
15. So where did you come from?
uh, the East Coast, Glastonbury, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
And then after Idaho, I moved to San Diego with my parents,
Hmm.
and then bounced around the West Coast for a while. Salt Lake City, Utah, back to California, Missoula, Montana, Seattle, and now I live in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah, okay. So why was the family moving around so much?
My dad did consulting work for different nuclear power companies doing engineering, and he followed where the contracts were. So,
Oh, okay.
but after California, that's where when I finished high school and I moved to Salt Lake on my own, and then back to San Diego, and then to Montana, then Seattle. I spent a good almost a little over a decade in Seattle,
Hmm.
and then maybe 4 years ago moved here to Kalamazoo, Michigan, with my family.
Yeah. Okay. Now you guys were moving around a lot, but I mean, what were your memories of like music like in the house?
My parents listened to a lot of classical music.
Hmm. Okay.
If it was rock and roll or pop music, it would be like the Beatles or Elton John or Jim Croce.
Hmm. Okay.
So I didn't have any older siblings. I have two younger sisters. So music was usually, things I was learning about was usually coming from maybe friends, older siblings, or skateboard and snowboard videos.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely remember at times, ordering stuff out of backs of catalogs to try and get new music. And thank God for cassette decks. Definitely duped a lot of tapes when
Oh
a
yeah.
friend would get their hands on something, make copies and mixtapes and whatnot.
Yeah. So what was the like turning point? What like spawned your interest in like finding your own music and what were you kind of getting into?
I mean, listened and was moved by a lot of different types of music. When I was really young, I remember discovering the Doors, which were would be on like a classic rock radio station, but not as much as a lot of other things. And then it turned into Guns N' Roses,
Hmm.
and then I knew a girl that turned me on to the Smashing Pumpkins, maybe like 3 years before they kind of blew up.
Okay.
So I was really hooked on when Gish came out. That blew my mind. I think I wore through many copies of that tape. Again, through snowboard videos, I got into the band Tool,
Okay.
which I like their early stuff. But uh, that first album, Opiate, was the first album that I remember listening to and getting physical chills down my spine, which was new to me. And then from there, it just kind of went into a lot of punk. Got way into Fugazi and the Dead Kennedys.
Oh yeah.
And around that time, the Melvins.
Right. 93-ish. Huh. Okay. I was actually wondering, like, when I was making that huge assumption about your musical choice, Melvin's Houdini, I was wondering if it came through the connection of Nirvana.
No, not for me. I heard, I mean, yeah, I guess I would have heard Nirvana before I heard the Melvins, but it was, for me, it was just something totally different.
Yeah.
Uh, and I wasn't aware of any, indirect connection between them till years and years and later. But yeah, when I heard the Melvins, it was a game changer. I remember thinking that it was weird. It definitely didn't sound like anything I'd heard. That it sounded really dark
Hmm.
and sinister, but there was a playfulness about it where it sounded fucking evil, but also sounded like they would have a smirk while they were performing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember hearing some of the first tracks that really got me hooked, and thinking that it sounded like I could hear metal influences, and I'd heard a lot of metal beforehand, but none of it had really caught my attention or grabbed me. It just wasn't my thing. But there was aspects about the Melvins that in my head I was like, oh, that's kind of metal, but not. But I really like it.
So wait, so this is the first record you heard. Is there any other Melvins record that you think like, because when you made this choice, I assume maybe Melvins came to mind, but then there's so many albums to choose from. Was this more of like a
Yeah,
nostalgic choice, or was it because you think it's their best record?
that's a good question. I think probably probably nostalgia,
Hmm.
because it just hit really hard and just made a really lasting impression on me. And there are other albums of theirs that have equally impacted me, and just as strong, if not stronger. I love some of the other ones that immediately come to mind are Stoner Witch, Gluey Porch Treatments, Senile Animals. There's so many,
Yeah.
and they're all good. There was just something about, I reckon it is probably the nostalgia aspect, just because. I mean, and on top of that, there's a handful of songs off there that just are my favorite in their repertoire.
Hmm.
So
Sure.
yeah, and
Um,
it's, again, as I said, like it's one that I've listened to so many times, and when I've started bands with somebody who isn't familiar with the Melvins, that's the one I turn them on to. Where I'm like, check this one out.
right.
Check out this song. Listen to the drummer. Listen to this. These are, I'll point out different aspects of things that I like about it, and just drawing up inspiration and kind of reference points.
Yeah. Okay. So, 1993, when this comes out, this is your introduction to them. Were you already like a musician? Were you already considering writing music or?
That's a good question. I was not really. I mean, I played. My parents got me into the cello.
Oh, wow.
They asked me what I wanted to play, and I told them I wanted to play drums. They said no way, and then
Hmm.
they're like, well, "What? Okay, guitar." And they're like, "No." And they're like, "Well," and then they were like, "Well, it's got to be a classical instrument. That's the program at the school.
Right.
What do you want?" I was like, "I want to play the upright bass." And they're like, "That's too big. It's like twice the size as you. How about a cello?" And I was like, "That sounds good. Let's do that."
Yeah.
And I did really enjoy it, but I'm a bit dyslexic and on the spectrum, and reading the sheet music was, my brain just really did not work that way, not in a fluid sense. Anyway, I played the cello for a few years, but it wasn't vibing when it came time to performances. Like, I would just memorize the pieces versus line by line reading the notes on the sheet music. So I gave that up and got way into skateboarding. But I picked up the bass guitar, I want to say when I was 19.
Okay.
So by the
Already
time I
out of the
was,
house by that point.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Um, by the time I was 20, I was starting up punk bands with friends in the basement and whatnot.
Right. Okay. And so that was the launching point of your musical career.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Wow. So yeah, so a lot of
Um,
time between when you kind of got exposed to this to getting into writing music. And punk music, you say, I mean, kind of along these lines, or did you kind of get into something prior,
As far as when I first started playing in bands,
like the first kind of
or
songs you'd write,
yeah, they were generally pretty punk
punk stuff? Okay.
or kind of down Neil Young esque kind of stuff. But
Folky?
maybe I mean it was rock, but at the time I was way and still am into Neil Young. So, but the first bands where I was writing songs with groups of people were definitely punk,
Yeah. Okay.
weird
Um,
punk,
weird
all over
punk.
the map, odd stuff.
It's
Like,
always been trying to push the envelope, always trying to get weird, heavy.
I mean, just trying to do something that felt different and fun and exciting. Like I think the first punk band I played in, we were just as much collectively as a group into like Fugazi and the Dead Kennedys as we were Ween.
Hmm. Okay.
So just kind of having fun and just, yeah, just having fun, keeping it weird, having fun, trying to just do different stuff and not, edit ourselves too much.
Yeah. And so when did you pick up the guitar?
Um, I mean, as soon as I got into the bass guitar, within months, I was like, I need to, like, I'm sold. I want to do any and everything I can with this. So I, acquired an acoustic guitar, like bought a drum kit, a used drum kit, and just wanted to just learn everything about all of it. But at the time was mainly passionate about bass guitar and in my head always wanted to be the drummer, but didn't have the chops. So,
Yeah.
but eventually did start playing drums in some different bands, and then a few years ago went back to bass, and then for this project that I play in now, play baritone guitar.
Yeah, right.
But
Is it your first time playing baritone?
yes, and the first time playing guitar or baritone guitar in a band. So I played it, but it was always just messing around. I
Oh,
was never
weird. Okay.
writing.
Interesting. And so was it by choice that you kind of developed a two piece? Just you and Garrett is your drummer?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. It was like the last few bands I had played in were two pieces, just out of necessity. Um, the last band I was in Seattle was called The Great Goddamn, and I played bass, and a friend played drums, and that was intentionally a two piece because I wanted the low heaviness, and in my mind, I wanted the really fuzzed out tones, and I felt that chorded tones with fuzz just sounded really muddy,
Hmm.
but that single notes with a lot of fuzz cranked out had a lot of really cool textures. So I figured bass would be a good instrument to do that with. And I
Hmm.
maybe would have done it again when I started Bronson Arm with Garrett, but was feeling that I wanted to get into some higher registers and cover a wider sonic territory that something more than the bass guitar would allow, but a regular guitar just on the opposite end of the spectrum didn't have enough low end.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a
tried.
conundrum, huh? I mean, for the two pieces, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, and I know you know them, Bedtime Magic, which is just what you were
Oh
describing with
yeah,
bass and drums.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and
Love them.
Nicholas has such a overdriven bass. I mean, like, and he does some kind of chorded strumming, it seems. But yeah, I mean, like I don't it works. It works somehow, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And if it's the right two people, you figure it out. And being in a two piece, you definitely it affects how you write the song. You know what I mean? Like there's
Hmm.
there's certain things that just won't work or don't work as well. So it informs what you write and how you write.
Sure. And there's only one other person to bounce the idea off of. So if they don't like it, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to an interview the other day where someone was saying they missed having a third person to break all the arguments. But
Yeah. It's not great being that person, I don't think, because how do you grease
Lucky for
their
us.
palm a little bit? Be like, hey, come on, oh, this idea is good. Come
Yeah,
on, I'll pay you a little extra this
yeah.
gig.
No, I mean, lucky for us, Garrett and I, we don't actually argue that much, and it's a give and take.
Right. I'm going back to the Melvins for a minute. Have you ever met them?
Yeah,
You ever play with them?
uh, not in person, no.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. They seem like really sweet guys. Dale and Buzz for the most part. I mean, the bass player seems to always be changing.
They do seem very approachable. I did meet Cody Willis when Big Business was part of the Melvins.
Oh, okay.
Super nice guy.
Yeah.
Super nice guy.
Great.
Um,
Well, it's always good to know. I always like to know that the bands are good people, friendly.
yeah, yeah, it helps.
All right, so we should tackle this record a little bit.
Sure.
So the first song is Hooch, and it's going to be a great little kind of segue into not only talking about this record, but talking about your band as well. What I have here is a quote. It says, begins with a Bonham-esque clatter that simmers down to a single kick drum before the voice and guitar enter. The two tom hits that punctuate Osborne's first two lines feel as crucial to the song's meaning as anything out of the singer's mouth. Another quote from Buzz, if the drums were different, the song wouldn't be as good. Osborne admits, it's effective because of the dynamics of the way the drummer plays. That's also a
Totally.
quote. That's also a quote from Buzz. Do you think about Bronson Arm the same way?
Uh, Definitely. I mean, there's there's parts where, we want the drums to kind of take the focus for a minute and I'll pull back or just get some feedback going and then, contrast that by then driving things together and getting kind of a push and pull tension between the elements. So, I mean, yeah, it's critical for sure.
Yeah. And how did you find Garrett?
We just met at a barbecue for our kids, like elementary school type function thing.
Okay.
And he was the only father that had tattoos. So struck up a conversation with him
You naturally gravitated to the weird guy.
a little bit. I mean, but yeah, he mentioned that I told him I played music and he told me that he had played drums before he joined the Navy and he literally just left the Navy and was returning back to civilian life.
Oh,
And I was like,
okay.
well, shit, you should come over to my house and we'll get some beers and make some noise in my basement. And it just took off from there.
Wow. That's fortunate, right? Find such a good drummer, right? Kind of
Oh,
out of
yeah.
nowhere.
Not at all what I was expecting because it was in my memory. I want to say it was like a month after I moved my family here. So, like, literally did not know anybody in town. Uh, and in my head was, I knew I would play music and be in bands and do things, but I didn't know I'd find something and get it going within a month of living in town.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, sometimes it can take forever, even if you are like a local.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and I mean, when we started out, we were just really had no long range vision for it. It was just like, let's just have fun and write songs and fuck around and maybe we'll play out sometime. And then it just kept on rolling forward. So,
Yeah, well, that's great. You got some good momentum.
yeah,
Um, let's move on to the next song, Night Goat.
I love that song.
It's a
That
great one.
song just, I think there's something about the when the guitars come in with that main kind of two note rhythm section. It to my ears, it sounds like a symphony. It sounds like just this evil, sinister wall of sound symphony.
Hmm.
Um, I'm definitely obsessed with that song.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely one of their best. I think it's probably one of the most sought after and requested songs.
Yeah, definitely one of the stronger ones on the album for sure.
Okay. So there's
But
not much I can mention about this song. I actually, I research these albums pretty thoroughly when I have to talk about them, and this was a difficult record, really. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I got a lot of Buzz's take on the record. He basically talked about this record very recently for the 30th anniversary, So most of what I have here is based on that interview of his. But
Hmm.
yeah, not much. He didn't have much to say about this song except for it's a great one. Really enjoys playing it. It's definitely become a staple of their set, but it was originally recorded as a single for Am Rep before, and then they put it on this record for Atlantic.
Yeah, I think that's the things I really enjoy about the Melvins is that I think I've heard him say it in different interviews where it's like, and I feel the same way about my art, where it's like I don't want to explain everything. I don't want every little detail spelled out.
Hmm.
I enjoy that interpretation is left to the listener to, pull their own conclusions about what it is and make their own decisions about what it means to them.
Oh yeah,
And
right.
that's it's across all their work. And I really appreciate.
I agree. I agree completely. So I won't dig too deep into your own songs either at this point, but 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 for this song, I mean, so because they originally released it for AMREP as a single, I heard that the first five songs of your new full length were actually previously released as well.
Yeah,
Can you tell me about that and like why that was?
we had started, you know, we'd started building a set to play out, and we played, like a house, like a DIY house show here in town, and right after, had a really strong response and a lot of invitations and kind of future bookings laid out off of that performance. And then like a week later, COVID hit,
Hmm.
and we were like, well, fuck, what should we do? We should still, we wanted to still, we knew it was going to be a while till we were out playing, but wanted to stay productive. And I'm a audio engineer and have stuff set up here in my house. So we decided to start recording our stuff. And the songs that are on this release, the full length release, were all written at the same time. But we started recording them, and then we kind of got halfway through and just felt antsy to start sharing stuff. Didn't feel like we wanted to just drop an album. So we just started sharing a couple singles just to, I don't know, let people know that we existed and that we
Right.
were out there. And
Stay
as
relevant.
things, book some stuff based off of what was out there because we obviously had not played outside of our town. And then, yeah, when we started talking with Learning Curve Records about putting something out, we were like, well, we have like a bunch more material that was done at the same time as what we've already kind of sprinkled out there a little bit. Maybe we just do that because there's a cohesiveness to them, not only in the recording style and everything, but where we were when we wrote them. So that's uh that's why we did it that way, because it's kind of a relatively cohesive body of work written at the same time, recorded at basically the same time, and probably how we would have put it out had we been given the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Um, let's move on to the next song, Lizzie.
Yeah.
This is another great one. So starts off as like an acoustic number, so a little different vibe than the typical Melvin's fare, huh?
Yeah. Really thin, cleaner, mellower guitar, kind of churning sounds, which I think make the vocals just really pop. You know,
Hmm.
they really jump forward in their sinister presence. And I love that it kind of sways back and forth through these heavier passages and then kicking it back down to this mellow, dirgy sound. I love that back and forth. It shakes you a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's
Like
the
when
extremes from the quiet to loud, right?
yeah, because if it's just loud all the time, you become desensitized to it. So I think they pulled that off very well. And placement within the album, it's like the first few songs are pretty full on, and then third song in, you get to kind of catch your breath for a second, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so Buzz says that it has a Rolling Stones feel to it. He also says that he's a little suspicious of anyone who doesn't like the Stones. So so what side are you on, man?
Oh, I think
For-
the Stones are fucking great, and I like the Beatles.
Oh, okay. You can't do both of those equally though.
Why not?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I don't know why people have kind of made that line. Uh I like both too, though I do admit that I probably like the Beatles more than I like the Stones.
I own more of the Beatles records than I do the Stones,
Hmm,
but the ones of the Stones that I own are fucking mind blowing. I mean, it's like it's two different things.
right.
They're two bands in the same era, but they're two totally different vibes, and they got a lot of the similar attention. And I'm sure at the time there was some sort of rivalry or something between them, but they're totally different things, and I fucking love them both.
Yeah. Okay. I
When,
agree with you.
yeah, I think when someone says they hate one or the other, I think it probably has more to do with how they were marketed versus the actual music. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I think. I don't know.
sure. Um, I agree with that. I mean, like it's just it all depends on what you feel at the moment, I think, because I mean, you're right, where they're just two different, completely different bands, really. I mean, I don't know why people pin them together like that, being like, you have to pick one or the other. Because sometimes you really like to party, and if you're gonna put like no one's gonna put a Beatles album on for a party for the most part. Like the Stones are a party band.
Yeah,
You can rock out to the Beatles, but it's not really party music. Not like low down dirty party
Helter
music. Like,
Skelter. I said Helter Skelter fucking rocks,
yeah, but
but
see, that's a banger, but it's not like a party song.
yeah, that was their outlier song on that record. But
Hmm. Well, so then going into another kind of like almost controversial topic is the cover of Going Blind.
yeah, um, to be honest, for years I hated that song, and when I was listening to the record, would fast forward it or skip it or just not a fan.
Okay.
But I would say over the last 7 years, I fucking dig it. It's like it took me a while to get it,
Hmm.
and now I have an appreciation for it. I think at first, it just the unique things about the Melvins and their songwriting style was what was getting me fucking pumped. And then that song came on, that song would hit, and it's very vocal centric.
Hmm.
The structure's more traditional, almost balladesque in certain ways. And that just turned me off at the time. I was
Hmm.
like, this is what I'm here for.
Right.
But it doesn't bother me anymore, like
Yeah.
at all.
Well, were you
But it
were you
did.
ever a Kiss fan?
No, that was before my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I, of course, was aware and have listened to them. Um, but for me, listening to what Kiss brought to the table, since it was kind of before my time, it's out of context. I think had I been aware and into music when it was coming out, I would have felt very differently because they were at the time doing something very different and exciting at the time.
Yeah, I suppose so. I never got into them either. I mean, like you said, it was before my time, so I still don't really want to get into those records.
The theatrics are a bit much for me. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I
but
don't
I
know.
can listen to that song now and be like, fuck, that's a pretty fucking good song.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely brought attention to it and kind of show it to be a good song. It can be and just as much of a rocker as any other song in the Melvins catalog, really. It is
Yeah.
a little poppy for them, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Because it's okay. I mean, Melvins, notoriously are kind of like pinned as this sludge band, And, I mean, they say it themselves, just like we're so much more than that. And like if you anyone that says that is just a complete idiot that doesn't listen to the music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, let's move on to the next song, Honey Bucket.
Hell yeah. That song. I
So
mean, especially following Going Blind, it just fucking tears back into what they do. You know, just recklessly, unapologetically, just full throttle. Love
yeah.
that song.
Yeah, yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites.
This
This was
is
the big single, right?
probably, yeah, I mean, probably.
Okay.
Um, but this is one of the songs when I was younger, and the first time I really sat down and listened to the record, where I hadn't heard anything like it, and still had not been exposed to all that was out there, music and genre wise. But in my head, I was like, oh shit, this is metal.
Hmm.
Like this is in my head. I was like, I think this is like fucking ripping, tear open a can of Budweiser, slam it, jump around metal, but not. I knew it wasn't, because I'd listened to things like, some of the early Metallica records that had some things that interested me, but not as a whole. Didn't really grab me. But this, I was like, I can hear things that in my brain I would categorize as metal esque. With
Hmm.
like kind of the you know sharp stops and cymbal grabs and shifts in the cadence, and just fast as hell. um, this was a really exciting song for me. It was like if I was into metal, this would be the kind of metal that I would be into.
Sure. Yeah, it's great. Great song. I have a little bit of a long uh quote here to read. So it says the second riff is something I always liked. Riffage with an almost funky backbeat, which is what ZZ Top are like at their best. Always having an impenetrable groove that has more swing is undeniably good and massively sexy, says Buzz. That second riff is what sells it. That riff is so good, one of the best I've ever written. End quote.
Nice.
Yeah. So with that being said, what track are you most excited about on your new album?
One of the ones that I'm most it's hard. I mean, it's hard. One that's really fun to play, and I'm hoping will have an influence on future stuff that we're working on, is Drain the Coffers. It's a really short song,
Hmm.
and it's fucking really fucking fun to play live, especially when I can work feedback off of the amp. And there's parts on it where Garrett and I are playing off of each other and just interacting. It's like a way that rhythmically we can like have a dialogue back and forth.
Hmm.
It's really fun. Yeah, probably Drain the Coffers.
All right. That's the fifth track, I think, right? Is that the
I
start of the second
think,
side?
yeah.
Okay.
So it'd be sixth.
Oh, sixth. Okay. Sorry. All right. Well, then the next song, Hag Me.
Yes. Yes.
Not a great song, I don't think. Like it's good.
Really?
Well, I mean, compared to some of the songs on this album, I feel like this is maybe one of the
Correct.
lesser.
I mean, I love I love the way the whole album is laid out, where there's dynamics within song selection.
Hmm.
The
The sequence.
Honey Bucket, yeah, the sequence. Honey Bucket's pretty fucking ripping, and then Hag Me is all of a sudden slow,
Hmm.
and you got the feedback churning, and listening to the tones of the guitar just blossom and swell. And it doesn't jump out as, say, memorable as some of the popular songs on the album, but I think it's one of the songs in the album that make the bigger picture of the album what it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Meaning,
Absolutely.
meaning like, with if that song wasn't on the album, it wouldn't be I mean, obviously it wouldn't be the same album, but I think it's a critical part for the big picture of the album.
Right, right. Yeah. It kind of adds to the whole feel of it. Well, so Buzz said that this is one of the few songs that he actually kind of addressed the lyrics of one of the songs, which honestly, I mean, I don't know what to make of any of the lyrics of any of Melvin's songs, really.
Yeah,
Like, I've never paid attention to them in the past, and I've listened to a bunch of their records. Even recently, preparing for tonight, I listened to a bunch more just to kind of like, just to even see, is it's like, okay, well, how much do lyrics really matter to this band? And I don't think it matters at all, really.
yeah. I mean, not lyrics in terms of the words
Messaging.
and the messaging. Like they're not trying to tell a story.
Yeah.
Um, but the again something that I pull very much from the Melvins and other artists do it as well, where it's like the pronunciation and the cadence and the space the words take up
Hmm.
is of utmost importance. What the words actually are is way lower on the hierarchy there. That yeah, for me, vocals are, I think of them almost more like a another instrument. So the way things fill in the space and rhythmically sound are very important. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, like I mean, similar to what you're saying, I've never. I think early on was just like I don't even care what the fucking words are. I just like the way it sounds, and I'm getting a message about the song, and because I'm, some people could consider the lyrics nonsensical. They're more invested in the music, in the bigger picture. So
Right. Yeah. So more, almost more important in that sense.
you were saying he did have a message on that song?
Well, I mean, so what he says is that uh Buzz says the lyrics are essentially saying if you tell me what to do and I don't like it, you're not gonna like what you get. Just leave me alone. I'll be fine and you'll be fine too.
Yeah,
So I don't know. To me that kind of reads like he gives no fucks.
yeah, I
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. So so my question to you is how is your fuck stash these days?
How is my what?
Your fuck
My
stash these days. I know it
fuck stat?
sounds that sounds a little suggestive, but what I'm saying is like, do you give any fucks these days?
I mean, yes and no. You know what I mean? Like
Depends on what.
depends on yeah, it depends on what. Um, when it comes to my music, I want to play the music that excites me and keeps me engaged and present with what we're doing. Um, and I want people to like it, but long time ago became fine with knowing that most people aren't going to like what I do musically.
Hmm.
So I'm fine with that, and am more interested in just making the music that I like. And enough, there are people that enjoy it, so that makes me fucking plenty happy.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
now, say raising my son, I give a lot of fucks.
Oh yeah,
You know,
sure. I have kids too, so I understand that sentiment.
yeah,
Very different. I definitely say, give no fucks in a lot of things, but yeah, when it comes to them, it's very different.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, with that being said, the next song is Set Me Straight.
Yeah,
Now, this one, maybe even more so than Hag Me, this one is kind of the weird one, isn't it? Would you agree with that?
it's yeah, yeah. I think the vocals, the way they're delivered jumps out for sure. And I'm trying to remember if it was yeah. I mean, I think for me this song is about the vocals, and the vocals have a very unique presence and delivery on them that is strange,
Mm-hmm.
and I think hints that they're a little weird.
Hmm. Okay. I was wondering if it maybe seems a little immature for the Melvins, especially at this point in their career, since this is their fifth album, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's goofy, but it's fun and playful. Um, I remember reading somewhere that this body of work was that some of the songs they had written a long time ago, that they weren't all fresh, brand new songs, that some of them were like songs they'd written the first year they were together as a band. So
Hmm.
that your observation there, that might, I mean, that might be pretty accurate. Because I think a couple of the songs were for them, had been around and laying in their back pocket for quite a while.
Yeah, well,
But
that's
I didn't.
actually I did learn that. I did find that out, yeah. Because the quote here is the Buzz saying, I was really new at playing guitar, and that was one of the first songs I ever wrote.
Oh, damn. Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I mean, he continues. It says, I still like it, weirdly enough. I might have been playing guitar for a couple of years when I wrote that.
I mean, I remember the lyrics definitely came off as sassy.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
Okay.
There's few songs that they have where I can pull out like a quote, and I think that's the one that's the "I could be hell without sex appeal," and that's just a fun lyric. It's
Hmm.
funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely like after I did the research and I read that quote, I mean, it kind of put it into perspective for me, being like, oh yeah, this is kind of like a it kind of seems like a a young song, like a song that somebody that's just learning how to write wrote. It seems simple and semi-immature. I mean, it's not embarrassingly, but it's simple.
Now I got to go back and listen to it with fresh perspective.
Right, right. Well, so my question to you is, when did you start writing songs, and what was the first song you wrote?
I think the first song I wrote, where I put together, I started playing bass, would come up with different riffs and rhythms. The first song I wrote was on a nylon string guitar
Hmm.
that I found in a dumpster when I was probably like 19. I have notes and lyrics somewhere in a notebook, but it was pretty basic. It was probably four, maybe four chords.
Okay, that's like actually kind of impressive for a first song for a budding songwriter.
Like I said, I was ambitious. I just wanted to soak all of it up and just learn everything about all of it, anything that I could.
Hmm.
I
And
remember,
how long had you been playing by that point, do you think?
maybe 6 months.
Oh, okay. So very, very fresh.
Yeah, but again, also within the first year of playing, I started messing around with recording, and then tracked down all the recording studios in town and begged them to let me sit in on a session. Told them I'd keep my mouth shut and get coffee just because I wanted to see how they did it all. So I was a very dry sponge, eager to soak everything up.
Hmm. And it was funny because so you kind of immediately gravitated towards like audio engineering and kind of music production.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at the time I was studying um, visual arts, painting and drawing. But I would say a year or two into the program, knew that I wanted to pursue music and recording and working with bands, but also didn't want to give up what I'd started. It was important for me to finish the program, the arts program that I'd started. Just in my
Hmm.
head, I was like, the second I graduate, I'm gonna go find a studio to work at,
Yeah.
which I
Okay.
did.
Cool. Let's see. Let's move on to the next song, Sky Pup.
Yeah, this song for me would be one that was a cue that this was a different kind of band,
Hmm. Okay.
and a strange, weird kind of song.
Yeah, for sure.
The bass line made me think of a drunk bass player playing on the Vegas Strip in like a dark, seedy lounge.
Hmm.
Um, and it was, for me, that's was an oddball song that indicated to me these guys are a little different,
Yeah.
and I like that. I like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, for sure. This is an interesting song. This is the only song to have Kurt Cobain perform the guitar part.
Oh yeah, yep,
Um, we haven't even talked about that at all, which is actually kind of great. But the connection or the part that Kurt Cobain played in the making of this album.
yeah. Which
Uh,
which from what I've heard, unfortunately, um, wasn't a whole lot, but uh, um,
right.
is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the reason why I'm happy that we haven't really touched upon it at all because it's really it doesn't seem all that important to the album. Um,
Yeah.
Supposedly he was a producer, but I mean, he doesn't seem like he really contributed much production wise. I mean, not in the sense of an actual like a true producer.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like the term producer can mean so many different things. Like there's, the big gun producers in the 50s and 60s and early 70s where it was like they were like writing the songs and lining up the backing band for the artist.
Hmm.
And then as things moved forward, the term producer seemed to evolve into more of just a person hired by the label that was responsible to deliver a good product for the label with the
Hmm.
artist, as far as
Yeah,
just managing time and scheduling and just like a project manager almost.
hmm.
And then 80s and 90s and definitely 2000s and moving forward, producer turned into a role where it's somebody that's manning the controls on the desk and picking mics and doing everything and basically engineering. So the role at this point when someone says producer can mean so many different things.
Sure. I feel like now, more probably more recently, like maybe the past 10 years, it's more of like the ideas person, the person that's helping kind of formulate structure to some of the songs, maybe. Maybe it's not even as involved as that. Sometimes, like in this case with Kurt Cobain, it was just like a simple suggestion of like, I like those lyrics. Those are great lyrics. Like print those lyrics, you know?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
totally. When I've worked in the studio and invited friends to help with the process and maybe offered them, a producer credit, for me, it's always been help me step out of my bubble. Like, is that take of the three, is that the good take or is this the good take? Or now that we're really getting into it, does that song need, the whatever, the fourth verse, or do we cut that?
Hmm.
Kind of it's like it's there, but kind of give someone to give fresh perspective to what you are kind of in the bubble with, where you just need some fresh perspective.
Sure. Yeah. Um, as far as this song is concerned, the Kurt Cobain performing the guitar part I had mentioned. Um, Also interesting throughout has been Dale's choices of percussion to add to these songs. And that's like throughout the record, not just this song, but on this song, there's definitely a notable choice of like certain percussion that he uses.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
always he's some interesting, you know, clanky percussion that I hear all over the place nowadays. But back then, to my ear and my experiences at the time were unique to his style.
yeah, I would say so. I mean, like wood blocks, it seems. What is that symbol called? That weird sharp symbol that's kind of dead. It just kind of sounds like a almost like a whip cracking.
There's a couple different names. I mean, there's there's like the China symbol that's just a garbage sound, like sounds like an aluminum lid off a garbage can, or like a
Yeah,
really quick,
right.
really brash but really quick sounding.
Yeah, like he uses
I,
one of those or something like that.
yeah, and I've seen him use like, you know, I've seen him take like two broken cymbals and stack them on top of each other again, so that there's just a dead quick decay, but just kind of a, you know,
Right, because so it's
um,
bright, but
it,
it
it
doesn't ring out.
deadens, it kind of deadens the highs, but it's, you know, an interesting kind of texture and sound.
Yeah, yeah. It always sticks out to me whenever I hear it. But so does Garrett use any odd percussion on the record?
Not on the record. Recently, we started experimenting a little bit with, what is it, like the little tambourine like bells on the hi-hat stand, um, and some kind of trash crash cymbals, some different things. He's definitely, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. We got some songs coming up that um, have some other things, but on this record, um, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
there's a song too where I think we added a shaker, you know, just really subtle.
Right. That sounds cool. Um, so I don't have much left for this record. I was going not that these are bad songs or anything, but I was gonna skip Joan of Arc and Teat just because I
You're going
didn't
to
have any
skip Joan of Arc?
just because I don't have anything for it, not because it's a bad
Oh
song.
yeah. I mean, for me, that one, yeah, I love. For me, I think the strongest songs are Night Goat, Joan of Arc, and Copake.
Hmm.
But that's just me.
Okay. Well, seeing as how you said it, Copake, that would be the next song we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
And is it Copake or is it Copache?
I always thought it was Copache,
Oh,
but
okay.
but um, I recently went through and was trying to figure it out, and I've heard Buzz call it Copake, so I guess that's what it is.
Hmm. Okay. I heard him say the opposite, actually. He said it was Copache. I don't know. Maybe it just depends
Well,
on the
see, and that's
day.
the thing. Like there's been times where I've tried to look up lyrics in the past because I'm just curious, and it's like every reference point says something totally fucking different, and I'm like, well, what, you know, there's a lot of different points of reference out there.
Sure, sure. And that kind of like is what leads me to believe like I don't know the Melvins all that well. I'm not a huge fan. I do like them. Um but like especially listening to like interviews with Buzz, I'm just like it kind of sounds like he's just trying to take the piss out of some things like at certain times like just if you catch him on the right day, he'll just kind of like just mess with somebody, just make a joke out of something instead of like kind of giving you like a direct fact or something. I don't
Yeah,
know. He's a hard read.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I mean, it would be fascinating to spend time with him in person, but I think I would assume that's part of his character. I mean, the first time that I saw them live, I remember I mean, this would have been around '99.
Hmm.
They all came out in trench coats and cranked up their amplifiers, you know, big expressive strum and letting it just swell and feedback. And then they went and set the guitars against the amplifiers and walked off stage for like, it probably wasn't that long, but it felt like 30 minutes. It was probably like 10.
Yeah.
But definitely, you know, I think that's part of the thing is fucking with you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Challenging
And
in a way too.
yeah, challenging you, fucking with you, seeing how you're going to respond a little bit. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Okay, so Copache, Copache, whatever you want to call it. Buzz has said the main riff is a Wipers ripoff. Accidentally. Wasn't on purpose. Um,
Interesting.
while the guitar solo takes elements from his love of the Ventures.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously we're speaking about Melvins today, but what other bands or music inspire you that you don't think are obvious?
I'm a big LCD sound system fan.
Hmm. Okay.
I'm a big Radiohead fan. Um, I mean, there's a lot of others that are all over the map that are more, classic. Like David Bowie. David Bowie probably inspires a lot of people.
Hmm. Yeah, of course.
One, one artist that I didn't get turned on to until a few years ago and had a strong impact was Scott Walker, which
Oh,
is for
yeah.
me very different sounding music and very experimental and avant-garde and that stuff is just fucking beautiful
Hmm.
and definitely not rock music.
Yeah, I can't say that I know it too well. I know that I know that I used to be in a band with a guy that was a big Scott Walker fan, and he put it on a few times, so I can't even tell you what it was. So I know, like, it's just one of those things. I know I've heard it, but it hasn't stuck with me yet, and I need to actually experiment with that.
I
So,
You should check out Scott Walker, or the album is just Scott 3. That for me, that's the one.
hmm,
Um, but all of his work is not always easily palatable, but fascinating and very moving, at least for me.
okay, cool. I'm gonna have to remind myself to get into that, because I've definitely been meaning to for a long time. You said one weird inspiration that's not obvious was Radiohead, and it's funny that you said that because thinking of the last song on your record, when the horns come in, Radiohead came to my mind.
Oh, cool.
Like, I guess I was probably thinking like the national anthem off of Kid A,
Oh, okay.
because like they
Yeah.
have that horn section in there. I mean, it's not exact. I mean, it actually the horns on the Devil You Know also brought to mind like the Beatles, like what's that
Okay.
song?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like it's got a little bit of that feel to it, and I thought that was interesting choice for a band like Bronson Arm.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that is interesting about Bronson Arm and it's myself and the drummer Garrett Yates. Is we definitely come from very different music um, backgrounds. Um, he grew up on a lot of kind of hardcore stuff, um,
Hmm.
and he's a little bit younger than myself, so Melvins were before his time. Well, I mean, Melvins are still active, but they were on his radar.
Right.
Um, so we're bringing different things to the table, and he brings things that I wouldn't have thought of, um, and I'm sure vice versa. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I enjoy about it is when I've played in other bands where you all have the exact same, where you're coming from the same place. Sometimes you have to like push to break out of that. Whereas working with Garrett, I'm at times trying to pull him into what I'm doing and like maybe if you just did something kind of like this and he'll meet me halfway, but
Hmm.
I think it's part of what makes the differences in what we're bringing to the table makes Bronson on what it is.
Sure. That makes sense. Well, the what you found is working very well, it seems. Looking forward to what you guys do in the future. I know that you guys have already like working on some new stuff, which obviously is a ways away, but good to know.
Yeah, it'll be some time, but we have another record recorded. We're just mixing it, and it'll be a while till it comes out. But we're going to be making up for lost time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and so, and this record just came out. And so you're going to want to tour. You're probably going to be touring this record, right?
Yes. We both have families. So for us, touring is doing 3-day weekend things once a month. And then a couple times this year, we're going to get out and move around, get out of our region for maybe a week or two.
Hmm. Cool.
Uh, and that's where we are for now. But yeah, we're going to be getting out and sharing it as much as possible and just having fun.
Yeah. Great, man. That sounds awesome. I can live vicariously through you. I kind of aspire for the same thing at some point, maybe. I know it's hard with the family, the kids. It's hard to get away, you know. So if you
Yeah,
can do it, if you can do it at all, it's a great feat.
it's a challenge, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, so I mean that concludes the record. I don't have anything else to mention about the last two songs, Pearl Bomb or Spread Eagle Beagle. I think
It, again, I think they're intentionally just oddball, fun, fucking around.
yeah.
But again, I think part of what makes it Houdini.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Thank you for turning me on to this record. I was not familiar with this completely. I think I maybe knew a little bit of it. I think I maybe tried listening to it at one point. Um, but it's definitely going to stick as far as referenceable Melvin's discography.
Yeah, I fucking love the record.
All right, man. Well, great. Well, thank you for talking to me about it. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me.